Well, I just made an excellent video and then I paused it, and when I tried to start it again, it started at the beginning and I lost probably the best talk I've ever made. Who knows? It's gone into the ether. I don't know. Maybe it was a lousy talk. Anyway, starting over again. So we were thinking about God, the creative spirit of the universe, and the idea that what a spirit is an invisible power, and you don't see invisible power. Well, first of all, don't think I'm talking about magic when I'm talking about invisible powers. Don't think I'm talking about these little ghosty things, evil spirits that get inside you. Any of the nonsense that mankind is famous for, uh, you know, the Bible tells us that the heart, which not talking about the pump, it's talking about the center. The center of man is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. If there's anything that humanity excels at, it's lying. They lie to themselves, they lie to everybody around them, and that is the description of man. If you wanted to pick out one word to describe human nature, it would be liar. All right. So, okay, how did I get onto that subject? Anyway, the, the, the world is full of lies, and the devil or mankind, right? I think I said that before, that the devil is alive and well, and its name is humanity. Humanity is the devil. The word devil is well, I don't know. It's translated to different things, but what it means is a devil is a liar, one who lies. So that means that all men are liars, all men are devils. There is there's no single spirit, ghost, alien, devil like all the churches and all the idiotic fantasy religions promote. There's no devil like that. You're looking at the devil when you look in the mirror, or when you look at me. I'm the devil too. So that's because we're liars, and God, the creator of the universe, is a God of truth. So we have two poles. Now, remember, I was talking before about the Elohim. The Elohim are analogous. Remember, okay, we go back when we were talking about the magnet. You take a magnet, you put it under the paper, and you sprinkle iron filings on it. Magically, as if magic, all these iron filings above that magnet all order themselves. They get into perfect lines, into these concentric lines around there. And, when in grade school they show you, well, these are the lines of force around the magnet, and these iron filings all perfectly line up with them. And so what we're seeing is an invisible power bringing order out of disorder. And what is God? Jesus comes right out and tells us in the Gospel of John that God is spirit. God is an invisible power that has effect here on the physical universe. And we can't see something that's invisible, but we can see its effect. When we look at a tree and we see the leaves waving around, we don't see the wind, but we see the effect of the wind, and we know the wind is there, and we see the creation, and we know that that power of creation is there. And now the Elohim are the iron filings. God is the creative power of the universe. The Elohim are individual things that have the Spirit of God moving through them. The Elohim are actual physical beings that we can see, talk to, we can touch them. These are actual aliens that have been very active in the creation of the world that we now know. So these Elohim are manifestations of God. God moving through these Elohim brings his will about. There's so many ways to look at this, to make it make sense. Well, let's just pretend that you are God. All right? You are God, and you want to create life on a lifeless rock. Say you want to create life on Mars. The planet Mars up there. Um, how would you go about it? Well, there's people actually that are planning the what do they call it? It's not terrify. It's terraform. Yeah, let's see. They're planning on terraforming. How come this thing's not moving right? Okay. Oh, okay. Anyway, okay. I just wanted to try to get in the middle, and there, I don't know. The thing didn't work. So the scientists today are planning on terraforming Mars. Generations in the future. And how do you go about it? Well, the first thing for life as we know it, Mars is just too cold. So what you've got to do is you've got to create some microbes that can live on what energy that we do find on Mars, and that will start working on the elements of the soil of Mars and the atmosphere. There is a little atmosphere there already, that you could work on these elements and bring them together and start producing molecules of a different type so that we could create a more dense atmosphere out of these molecules, and that the dense atmosphere would start catching more sunlight and holding it, and it would start bringing up the temperature of the planet, and as the temperature of the planet comes up, we can start creating more complex life forms. And so these first life forms, there's no reason for them to continue. We make them so they can reproduce as long as they're needed, as long as there's things for them to make into what we want. They will keep on reproducing and making more and dying because they're expendable and they're not going to continue forever and they're not going to be needed forever. And so, as each type of life form grows, you say you are God, you're going to program these life forms that as they get to a different stage, they're going to make a new life form, something a little bit different, something that can work on the things that have been produced by previous generations of these life forms. Anyway, it's so simple. You look at what God has done and you learn from it. You see God in the effect of God. You see what God has done, and so you see how God works. And all these things make God more visible to you, and you grow in your knowledge of God and your appreciation for God. And so you can see that how God would create life on Mars, and you think back now, well, how do you suppose life was made here on Earth? And all we know from the Bible is that the Elohim were working on things here in the earth, and they talking to each other said, well, let's make man in our image. You know, well, the Elohim, they're talking to each other, and they say, well, let's make man like us. Only he's still an animal. He's just similar to us. He isn't one of us, but he's similar to us. Then we will give him dominion over the fish of the sea and the fowl of the air and the plants on the land. We'll give him dominion over all these things, so that as we do, mankind can try controlling these things and see if he can develop into one of us. We're told in the Bible that this is God's purpose, that he's creating a people for his purpose. And the purpose is the manifestation of God. In other words, we are being developed into Elohim. We are going to be these powerful beings. That's what the general word, understanding of the word means. Elohim is powerful beings. Sometimes it talks about, like rulers, human rulers as Elohim, because they had power over the people below them. Sometimes they're called gods. Sometimes they're called El. Anytime you read God in the Bible, in most of the Bibles that I know of, in English version, he usually calls Elohim God, where it says, God said, let us make man in our image. First of all, there's a singular talking to himself and saying, our, no. It's the Elohim, and God is working through these Elohim. So it's God doing it, the one God doing it through a multitude of his creations. And we have the potential, we have the power to become Elohim. And this is key to life. You can go through life playing make-believe, because we are such good liars. We can tell ourselves all kinds of things just to try to make us happy. We can say, oh, the people that we love that have died are all floating around in the clouds watching over us, and they still love us. And the truth is that these people have turned into fertilizer for the plants. I know that sounds harsh for me to talk like that, but the fertilizer is a good thing. You know how I talked about the shark being good. He's not good when he bites your foot off, but he's good in that he is adding to the general overall health of the biosphere. The life project that God is creating here on this planet. The shark is adding to it. It's a healthful and it's a good thing. And the angels, the Elohim said, when they created all these things, they said, it is good. Even man, when he was made, he's good. So we see that man has a purpose. And this purpose has nothing to do with what the churches teach. It's God's function is not to save man. It's man's function and purpose to manifest God. All your churches have it exactly backwards. They say it's about salvation. It's not about the salvation of man. It's about the manifestation of God. Only God is good. When somebody went up to Jesus and called him good master, Jesus right away stopped. Oh, wait, who good? Why do you call me good? There's only one good, and that's God. If we do any good, it's God working through us. Recognize what the good is. And the best that we can hope for is that we can have this Spirit of God moving through us. Think of the magnets. When you put these iron filings on the paper above the magnet and they line up, you may notice something. That as these iron filings stay in harmony with God, they stay in the lines of flux, then their molecules inside of them all start getting lined up, positive and negative, and they themselves become more magnets. Each one of these iron filings turns into a magnet itself with its own field. So we see the way God is operating, don't we? We're observing God in the effect of God, and we're seeing how it works. So the iron filings that stay in alignment with God gain power. More of the power of God. The more you stay in harmony with God, the more godly you become. The more you become like the Elohim. This is the purpose of life. See? Here it is in my third talk, and already, here I've solved one of the greatest problems of the universe. What is the meaning of life? What is it about? Why am I here? Okay, I just told you. You're here to manifest God. Well, that's a good purpose. But we are animals. We're expendable like all the animals. We are temporary like all the animals. And we only become Elohim by using that thing that God gave us that made us different than the animals. We have free will. We have the power of reason that animals don't have. We have a part of our brain that we don't see an equivalent function in other animals. We can take abstract thoughts and we can weigh them together, and we can come to conclusions about things that we've never had any experience with, or that only exist in our imagination. We can do these abstract uh, thoughts and reasoning, and because God is invisible, not not a thing that you can actually see and taste and touch, we have to use that part of our brain to see God. Like we see the wind when we see the leaves moving, we believe that that's the wind doing it. And when we see other things where there's invisible power causing things, you know, all the invisible powers put together is the power of God. It is God moving through all these elements that He's created, and we can be part of this creative process. The Elohim, the fingers of God, they're down here, and they're manipulating the genetics of all these life forms, bringing about what they want. In the Bible it says that when the Elohim were making the different animals and everything, that it was set in them what they were going to be, and that they would bring after, uh, they would create more of their own kind. And this idiotic thing about random chance and survival of the fittest type of evolution, you know, that is taught in the schools. It's so totally idiotic, and it's been disproven. I mean, totally, completely disproven for 20 or 30 years now, and yet it's still taught as fact. Still taught as fact throughout all of our schools here in the USA. It's so idiotic. People get stuff stuck in their brain that has no basis in fact, and because they like the thought and it makes sense to them in their little fantasy worlds, then they promote it as fact, and they teach all this idiotic nonsense as facts in the school. So anyway, the theory of evolution was disproved. Well, okay, first of all, the thing that brought about the theory of evolution was when what was his name? Went to the Galapagos Islands. Um, how am I gonna pause this thing without stopping it all over again? Darwin. Oh, okay, I don't have to stop it. I don't know how to pause this thing. Last time I paused it, I lost the entire talk. So anyway, Darwin saw that there was a type of bird, and there's a bunch of islands here in this Galapagos island series of islands here. And this one bird looked completely different on these different islands because it had different food sources, and so he thought, well, this bird evolved to fit into whatever situation it found itself. They evolved to fit in. So they say accidentally some gene would do something beneficial, and then because that worked better, then these would live longer and they would make more offspring, and so the survival of the fittest and evolution of these different species. Anyway, now since they have broken the genetic code, they have not found one example of this. Every one of those birds all have the genetic programming to do any of them. It's all there. And we've known it for, I don't know, 20, 30 years. How long has it been since they broke the genetic code on this? Anyway, that we've known it for decades. Still taught as fact in the schools. Well, anyway, so I probably got off of my main track. Oh, I was talking about us becoming Elohim and the iron filings. So this is our purpose in life. Now we will look at why we don't just turn into Elohim. It seems that our animal nature comes first. First the physical and then the spiritual, we're told in the Bible. So first of all, we're born these animal creatures. You know, a baby is absolutely, totally self-centered. To that baby, there's only one thing that matters, and that is having its desires met. That's all. It doesn't consider anything else. And so, basically, it's just like all these lower life forms. And then it gets to a point where it can start recognizing people around him. And the baby's tasting, smelling, hearing, you know, he's using all of his senses. And he's starting to observe the world around him. And so he's growing in his ability to think. And the first, as he thinks, what he sees is these people that are giving him what he wants. So he gets decided, well, these are good people. They give me what I want, right? And so he starts relating to them. He's copying them. He listens to them. Pretty soon he starts saying words. He starts copying. And so anyway, you know, just like a bird can learn how to talk and everything, basically babies are still just total animal nature, but they're developing their brain. So anyway, I don't want to get too long and drawn out. Unless somebody has a question, I go into more detail on anything, because if there's anything that I love in this universe, it's the beauty of truth. How truth is, there's only one truth. And truth is always true. You know, you hear these fools around you all the time. I mean, they're professors in the colleges and everything, total idiots, and they're saying, "Well, whose truth are we talking about? Yours or mine?" Just like Pilate, you know, as if there's more than one truth. No, it's only one truth. And if this truth isn't the same as this other truth, then one of them isn't true, or maybe both are short of the actual truth in the middle. But anyway, truth is absolute. Our perception of truth is not. God is absolute. Our ability towards godliness is not. Not by a long shot. But the Elohim created us in a way that we can develop this godliness, that we can learn of God. We can use that extra part of our mind to see God in His we could see God in His effect, in the things that He does. So as we see God, just like the baby seeing those around him who are nourishing him, we can try to copy God. And as we copy God, we are coming into harmony with God. So the more we're in harmony with God, the more godly we are, and eventually there will come a time when, if we are godly enough, then we will no longer need this animal nature. We will grow out of it. We will have a new birth. You know, it talks about being born again in the New Testament. First, first of all, the old man is just an animal, and then he becomes the natural or the animal, and then he becomes the spiritual man. In other words, the one with the power of God that is moving through them, the spiritual man. Well, anyway, so I'm getting close to I've been trying to set a half-hour limit on my talks, and I'm getting close to it. And so I want to sum up now. The purpose of life, we've covered that. The purpose of life is to become an Elohim. Every one of us has that potential. That's why we're told we're not supposed to commit murder. We're not supposed to murder another human being because they're in the image of God, because they are created with the potential to become Elohim. And that's an important thing. The Elohim are important. The animals, not so much. There's plenty of them, and they keep reproducing, and there's more coming all the time. So you have a choice. Either you can be just like a bug. It goes, it eats, it reproduces, it dies. So that's all there is. Or you can be an Elohim. And you can say, wow, I see the creation. I see the beauty and how everything fits. I see the harmony, and it's a beautiful thing, and I love it, and I want to do all that I can to promote it. And then you're becoming godly. And as your scientists will tell you, the universe is expanding. The creation is expanding. Creation isn't a one-shot deal. It's going on right now. We are being created. Creation is going on, and we will become Elohim if we choose. If we choose to, we will become Elohim, and we'll become a part of that creative process. And that just sounds like so much fun. I think that's going to be so interesting. So why don't you try? Take my advice and start working as an Elohim today. First thing you could do is maybe go out and plant a garden.